Welcome to Critical Café,
Join us as we chat about the latest episode,
the campaign as a whole, and Critical Role in general.
all while we partake in a delicious cup of coffee. So grab yourself a tasty beverage
Settle into your favorite cozy spot.
and get ready for a little geek philosophy. Welcome to Geek Philosophy Presents Critical Café Live. I am Brian. This is Crystal.
Hi.
Hi there for everybody listening on audio. So we haven't been on live for a while, so apologies for the delay, but we've had a lot of stuff going on towards this half of the year, and especially recently with all kinds of stuff in the works, but also needing to take a little bit of a break from our normal live streaming flow, just with personal stuff going on. We've had doctor's appointments and traveling in and out of town to do things, and so we needed to take a little bit of a break, but we're back and ready to talk all things Critical Role. If you are new to the channel, this is our show where we talk just about that. So you'll see in the playlist that you can find on the channel all of the other episodes that we've done. We've moved, as we mentioned last time, from doing sort of a episode by episode breakdown into more of an overview whenever we do one of these, just what's been going on and what our thoughts are. And I think it works out better because we're able to kind of talk about more big deal things and also like overall arc type of storyline stuff rather than trying to find little bits and pieces from every episode of the show. So I think it's going to work okay this way, and we've been sort of hoping that we can continue this. So yeah, if you want to support the channel, just make sure you like and subscribe and do all of those things. You can also go down to the description box and you'll see a link to buy us a coffee if you'd like. You don't have to, but it's up to you if you'd like to join us with a tasty beverage. Yeah, so anything I'm missing before we jump in?
I don't think so. I think you did a good job.
Oh, thank you. It's like I've done this before. Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump right in. Let's chat a little bit. We've had a lot going on. So not only with the regular campaign 3 stuff, we've had some developments there, obviously, since the last time we spoke. But we also had the return to campaign 2, which also happened timeline-wise during the same timeline as what's going on in campaign 3. Really interesting. So that was cool. Yeah. So I don't know. What's give me your overall thoughts of where we are so far, and then maybe we can dig in a little bit.
Oh gosh, I really feel like we've had so many like kind of big things happen in campaign 3 right now. I mean, everything from the different shards and finding out things about Ashton's past, and then, where they are now. But I'm excited to kind of dive into it and talk about it a little bit. So
yeah, so maybe we should start there. So during the venture over into the Shattered Teeth, they started digging in, trying to be on the track of some things, but then they also ended up finding more about Ashton's background and the whole Hishari connection. I don't know if we went into that in the last one, but let's just talk about it now. But like, and him being basically of Titan blood, which is a huge reveal that happened. And then there's more that's connected with that and these shards. So yeah, why don't we talk about what do you think about that whole development?
So the group went to the Shattered Teeth originally to find the tree, the Avantravir tree, that was originally of the Hishari, and then decided to, right? I mean, I think he was an original, part, and then he decided to become this other being, and they found him, talked with him, and it's this crazy morbid tree with heads hanging down. It's like a tree of sorrow almost. But they get to talking, and Ashton finds out that he has a shard of Comort, which is the earth the earth primordial Titan. So that was a big shock. I mean, we kind of knew already that there was a lot of things surrounding Ashton that were kind of mysterious and unknown. He doesn't even remember, the stuff that happened to him or what's real and what isn't, because he has all that mote of possibility and, the dudamancy in his head and stuff. So finding out that he's got this shard is really, it answers a lot of questions, but it's also super cool. So
It is, and by the way, spoilers for everything up to probably episode 77 or 78. So if those of you
yeah.
who are watching us after, then just spoiler alert. But no, I think that's it's such an important thing to find out about him, and it kind of goes in with the whole like Earth Genasi heritage thing and having that shard, but it also leads into, and I don't want to skip too far ahead, but we had some developments where they find out more about was it the potential other shard that they started searching
Yeah.
for at that
Yeah.
point, or the
It's
and
the
this is
shard
where
of
they have the
Rashan.
whole
Yeah.
right, which was in this, also in the Shattered Teeth, but it was also in this sort of lava cave. They had to like go through everything. And I gotta say, like, I was like, why Ashton just jumps into the lava going after the shard once they realized it was in the bottom. And I was like, ugh, okay. And I mean, I don't think that was an obvious choice. And I don't think Matt thought it was an obvious choice, because he's like, lots of stuff happening. He's basically just burning away as he's going down there. So it took a lot. Then Fern jumps in to help him. Craziness ensues, but that's when Lewdness shows up. Well, not really Lewdness, but Lewdness shows up, and at the time they weren't sure. And they have this whole battle with Lewdness's cronies and really his not a doppelganger, but a simulacrum. And so it was interesting to see that he was likely going after the same thing, right? Like that's what I got from it. Was he after the same shard? So
so they figured out they've been being spied on, and they did not realize that they were being spied on. So I don't know what came first. I don't know if they were being spied on and therefore Lewdness followed them there, or if Lewdness was searching for the shard and happened to show up there the same time they were there.
Yeah. If you are joining us in the chat, put your thoughts in. If you're joining us after the fact, put it in the comments, because I'd like to get your take on that too. I have a feeling that if he was spying on them, that it almost doesn't matter. It almost doesn't matter if he was the first to know or if he was, following them, because he found it important enough to go after that thing. Which, so they ended up having the whole battle, and the simulacrum is defeated.
But, he turns into slush or something, just melts away. Yeah. And they're like, oh, it's not really him
or something, right?
Yeah.
And which I think was, for those of us that remember Pumat, right? It's like you got a bunch of Pumats. It's bound to happen with others. So, and also you had kind of this is an offshoot, but also Caleb did a simulacrum in the offshoot adventure that they did in the UK, which was also really fun to see. That I thought it was cool seeing them back together with those characters, and it was the first time we've seen Caduceus in a while, right? Because last time I think they played it, I think Taliesin didn't play Caduceus the last time they got together, I don't think. So it was cool seeing the whole Mighty Nine back together. At the same time with all this stuff. And
their outfits were super cool too.
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean, what was crazy to me is we're fans, but it's cool to see how big of a reaction it is at that venue in the UK. I don't know. It's just it's a little validating to see how a live audience is with them, because they haven't had that live audience feel in a long time.
Yeah.
And usually it's at one of our conventions here in the state, like CalmaCon or Gen Con or something like that. To see it happen in the UK, I thought was really cool, just to see it go on.
So I thought it was really funny that the guy that was the MC, or the guy that was the comedic relief, joined the game and then died in the first 5 minutes. He's like, oh, all right, I'm leaving.
It was also cool to see Sam play Knott's kid rather than Knott, or
Yes, Luke.
you know, yeah. So Luke made the appearance again. I thought that was really cool.
As
Um,
a teenager.
yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
grown a little bit.
Or however old he is, because it's always been a
Yeah, yeah.
ambiguous thing. But yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it was really cool seeing them back again, and also like it kind of made me think too about how just we've been with the Marvel Cinematic Universe for so long, like of having all these interconnected connected movies for over 10 years now and everything else going on, and it's sort of like everybody knows and expects that now.
Yeah.
What's interesting about D&D, it was sort of like the cool way of having that in your own house, like back in the day. Like you could have groups and like storylines that continue and all these games going on, and like it's awesome to see that happening, like where you can have these storylines that are spanning different characters and stuff like that. It's its own, like, the Critical Role cinematic universe almost, like
Yeah.
where you're able to
Yeah.
see how all of it connects. So yeah, so I was really happy to see just basically everybody get together on stage again and play. It was really fun. So sorry, that was a digression, but yeah, so that was going on sort of in the same timeline as what was going
Yeah.
on. So they go through, they get that shard, and then lots of other stuff happened, right? Like, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna forget
Teleport
everything
back to
like in between
White
because
Whitestone. Yeah, they teleport back to
yeah, that's right.
Whitestone. They get to meet Allura.
Yep.
They really want that harness fixed because they think that this could be the
Mm.
power that they can all kind of punch up, enough to be able to be strong enough to kind of fight Ludinus, but they don't,
But so they got that shard, the fire shard, and then
yes.
like the tree told them, the Ventrevere told them, hey,
Hmm.
it's really dangerous for you to even want to bring that in, Ashton, because it's bad things will happen. These two things can't be together because you
Yes.
already have the one, right? So they knew this going in. Plus, there's already the Dunamancy and the other shard battling within him, and so we have
And his
them.
shard is unwoken. The one he already
Yeah,
has is not woken up, which is really important, right? Like,
I
that would
think
be the
so.
first thing I would think to do is to awaken the shard within you
Yeah.
before
So
anything
yeah.
else.
Look, I
But whatever.
understand. I understand when people say not to metagame, and I think that is 100% the correct way to go. You shouldn't metagame as much as you can. However, um, there's always a certain amount of metagaming, quote unquote, that happens when you play D&D. You
Well,
know
yeah.
you're in a game.
Yeah.
You know that there's a storyline. You know that there are characters going on. You know you have free choice to do whatever you want to
Yeah.
do. But you also realize that your dungeon master, game master, depending on what system you're playing, has put together some things, worked really hard on some things to try to help the game go forward, and considered good GMs, especially one of the best, like Mercer, has considered everybody's backstory and tried to put elements in that hopefully people can pick up on and run with. So I know that that is also, as a player, you also try to think about that. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to be a player at the table and not being aware and conscientious of everybody else at the table or the game master that's running the game for you. And you try to do it as much as possible without game mastering, or without metagaming. But I have to say, if I was putting something in a game and one of them was an earth shard and I had an earth genasi, and another thing was a fire shard and I had a fire druid, and like it kind of makes you think that, oh, these probably go with these characters, or they probably are best suited, but hey, try
Yep.
whatever you want.
Right.
And with the "hey, try whatever you want," the game master gave warning after warning after warning of this is potentially catastrophe. So you tell me how this played out for everybody
Oh
that
my
doesn't need a reminder,
gosh.
but let's go ahead and
So,
yeah.
first of all, first of all, I really think it's important to understand where Fern's head is at during all of this too.
Yeah.
It would seem as if it's cut and dry. Earth with earth, fire with fire. However, all through campaign 3, we have seen Fern battle with what future Fern might possibly turn into. She's
Yeah.
seen sides of her that are like dark Fern, and I think she's scared. And so at a certain point, she just says she doesn't want the shard.
Right.
And which seems like everybody's like, but you're the fire person, so you should have the shard. And she just keeps saying she doesn't want it because I think she's scared, because she doesn't know what events tip off her turning into something evil or something bad or something dark. And I think she's just she's avoiding anything that she thinks could
Yeah.
possibly get her there. So we get to Whitestone, and Ashton pulls her aside and talks to her and pretty much hatches a plan where, like, she will help him use the harness and pretty much absorb or ingest the fire shard into his body. She's the only one he like clues in. She's the only one he asks to help her, and she willingly, I mean, I think she was a little confused just by watching body language and kind of hearing what she was saying, but she was like, okay, no, I'll help you. Like, and I think Ashley herself was thinking that they were in this time for Talison's backstory. So a little bit of metagaming, I think, in that instance. I think Ashley was a little confused. I think Ashley was like, okay, this is all
Maybe
happening
so. Yeah.
within. And, like I do, because I think when it's all said and done, she was so frustrated, and so they stage this whole thing where they go down to the ziggurat underneath the castle, and they tell everybody's down there. The whole group is down there, including Alora, but they tell everyone that they want to be alone because it's a private thing. Like, when has anyone in the group ever done anything and said, no, 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 we're going to go over here. You guys stay over
Yeah.
there. Like, who's
Meanwhile,
the strike?
let me just say this by the way, because I'll keep going after this, but let me just say,
Yeah.
talk about not metagaming. Everybody at the table heard all of them say all this.
Yeah.
So even though their characters didn't know,
Yeah.
the players all knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And they had to deal with the fact that their characters didn't know about it. So,
Yes.
man, that is hard when you're like
It is.
having to differentiate that at the table. Anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. So, everybody is kind of, they're up the stairs. So everybody's kind of down the stairs, and they don't have visual on Ashton and Fern. And so Fern helps him get strapped in and starts the process of him draining this or pulling this crystal into his body. And it goes horribly wrong. Like, we're talking next level imploded horribly wrong. Arm falls off. Like, he's literally breaking apart. He has, in the past, he's been described as having all of this gold kind of paint and like, filling him in, holding him together, and it melts. Like, it's all over the cracks of his body, and it melts out. And so then he's like on the verge of dying almost every single roll he has to make. And the only thing that is really, finally, the group runs up as he's in this process of just melting, falling apart. He like even, I think, flies up in the air, and all of his pieces like implode out, and then they finally come back to, I don't know. It's just some crazy stuff. And
yeah, I mean, he was dead if they hadn't done what they did.
They kept trying to heal him. They kept trying to heal him. At the same time, they're like yelling, they're like, what in the world did you do? We thought this was going to be Fern, not you. Like the whole time, like the whole rest of the group, they're all so mad. In like the players, they're so mad.
Oh, you could. It's so palpable.
They're so
you got the tension in the room.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Laura's
man.
over there like, what are you doing? So,
yeah.
they end up healing him and healing him and healing him, but they can only heal so much. And I think what actually ended up being the difference between the like life or death for Ashton was just his ring of temporal what was it? Ring of temporal, what was it called? Salvation.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
that burned up at the time. Like, I mean, he basically
Mhm.
it was used up. I,
Yep.
yeah, it was bad. And
So bad.
they end it with basically that episode, I think, with him actually coming back, but then it's sort of a cliffhanger. Like, what are they going to do next?
Yeah.
And
He forms a new arm, but it's all like jaggedy rock stuff.
yep.
And they end up, he's alive, but everybody's mad at him. Fern kicks him in the face because she finally at some point is like clued into the fact like this was not a good idea, and oh my god, I'm helping my friend kill himself.
Yeah, and I think during the process of that, either that or right after, there's also where Delilah kind of reared her head again. I think at some point.
Yeah, I think that happens. Like they ended on the cliffhanger of that episode, and so I think that happens in the next one after that, where like
That's right. Yeah.
literally the second that he's alive, Fern kicks him in the face and runs off, and then it's kind of like cliffhanger, you know?
And it picks up next episode with him being very like apologetic and
Yeah,
like coming to terms what really happened and putting it like everybody lays into it,
yeah.
rightfully so, as
Well,
characters. But I
and
have to ask you,
yeah,
so we know, like, we can talk more about like what happens in the actually. What I'm curious about is, what do you think happened in between episodes with them as
oh,
players? What do you think the conversations were like?
I
Because
think
I
that
got
I
the
think they
impression, like you
ripped
did,
into
everybody was
him.
mad and nobody. And I think the conversations that happened in between those games led to the next episode. This is purely speculation. They all
Yeah,
love each other. They're all friends. I'm
yeah,
not trying to say
girlfriend. Yeah,
there's bad blood
you can
between
still
them
be
or
mad
anything,
at your
but I
friend
am
though.
saying
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel as if they had a come to change bringer meeting with them, like discussion with them, and we're like,
yes,
wait a minute, this is a hard pill to swallow, but you're gonna have to like think about what this happened as a game,
yeah,
not just in the story that we're trying to tell, but
right,
also in the
yeah.
way this game is played. Man, it was so, and a
Well,
show
and
like part
yeah,
of it, like as much as like it is a D&D game, they're also they're a company producing a show,
right,
and it's all tied. I don't think, like, they're obviously insiders in the whole like entertainment field, and they do movies and animated stuff, and I'm not taking that away from them, but they are in this unique situation where this type of live streaming, actual play games didn't fall under any of the writer's strike stuff. So even during the writer strike things, this was still able to go on because they're not writers; they're
yeah,
actually
yeah,
live playing role playing games, so they could actually keep playing, even though they went out and helped with all that stuff when it was going on, and they supported all that and everything else. Um, but having my whole point in saying all that is, like, if you are a company who's also trying to count on viewership and you're live streaming this to your fans, you gotta think, man, like, they have to at least talk between episodes to figure out, like, hey, how are we going to handle situations like this coming up? Because it seems like when the next game started, it was almost, and I hate to say it didn't fit, but it was almost like Ashton as a character turned around very quickly from the minutes before to the minutes after. So I don't know. I just feel like it was a big conversation in between sessions.
well,
That was just
and
my
I
gut feeling.
think when we got the cliffhanger, literally everybody was like, "Oh my god," and then Ashton like looked at Matt, and Matt said, "I could not have been more clear without
Yeah.
railroading you, that this was not a good idea, man." Like,
Yeah, I've read some things a little bit about it, and I'm not trying to come down too hard on Taliesin for what he did. Like, um, you know, I think Luna at LaBuffin made a really good
Yeah.
point. Like, nobody really came down this hard on Liam when he pulled out the dodecahedron in front of everybody in Kryn and said, like, he made that choice kind of on his own, and it worked out, right? So
Yeah.
like, there have been big plays that people have made and choices that they made, and that is part of D&D. People do that. There are times when, like, we had a game, we talked about this while this was going on, we had a game where, and this was, you know, our Relics of the Ancients campaign. We've got our, you can go watch it on our channel,
Yeah.
where we had someone that had a similar thing, had a similar magic item, and Carrie was, his character was like, I'm gonna go grab it, and you were like, no, don't touch that. So,
Don't
like,
touch it.
don't touch that thing.
Don't
Like,
touch
that was
it.
you. That was not your character. That was you saying that. And like, and that's totally normal for this type of stuff. I'm just saying, like, it's so interesting to me, like how it's all wrapped up in the fact that, like, that's normal for a D&D game for these things to happen sometime.
Yeah.
Harder when it's an ongoing years long series that people are watching as an entertainment thing, you know?
I mean, I'm gonna say, in like, you know, back to that though, everything that we picked up along the way, I wore gloves, or, you know, I was real like, I am
See,
not one of those
even you now are
players.
like, I'm defending my actions.
I will.
Yeah. And, you know, it was
Well,
funny is, like, he was just like, I just want to check it out. Like, you're like, no.
no,
Oh
I really
man.
do struggle. Like, people that I know that play, they're like, it's just a game. It's a safe place. And I'm like, no, it's not. You will die.
Yeah.
So I have some struggles in that department. Like, it's,
Well,
I immerse myself and I'm like, no, no, no. Is this really a decision that you would make in life? Like, mm-mm.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, it's also like, what we're watching right now, we're in the middle of, if you haven't checked it out, Tony Hale and
Red Nose.
Sam Richardson, I think,
Yeah.
who are in the whole Red Nose Day thing for this year. We're in the middle of it. We haven't watched all the way through, but we've had some stuff where, like, you could see on their face when they get up, like, they're kind of new D&D players. You can see when they take a bunch of hit points, they're like, oh,
Yeah.
like, they have that gut reaction of, oh, this is getting a little too real. Like,
Yeah.
even though it's just a
Yeah.
fun, silly game for what they're doing, it's a lot of fun, and, like, it's hard not
Well,
to let that go.
I'll say whenever it ended, the cliffhanger ended on that episode, and Fern was so mad she went over to kick him. I was like, oh Lord, we're gonna have another Bordor incident where it's gonna be like
Yeah.
the punch and it's just gonna kill him, you know? So I
Oh
was
yeah,
like, oh,
right.
oh no, oh no.
Yeah, yeah.
Fern is so, she's like, I'm just gonna,
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick him with my
Oh,
hoof.
you're right too, because if that would have happened and nobody had anything to
Yeah.
bring him back, like, there's no resurrection magic that we know of that's
No.
working right
I
now.
was like,
Yeah.
oh no, she wasn't with the group. Like, she wasn't with the group and watch Border or Die, you know, like she was in the other group.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm going, oh my gosh, are we going to watch Ashton fight that? Is he going to have to make another character? I feel like every single, except for campaign 1, he has had to go through so many characters. And I understand the explanation that a lot of people have had that the character Ashton would have done that. But I feel like once they got to that tree, there's already several in the group anyways that are like super, I don't know
Yeah.
if you call it suicidal. I don't know if you call it like quick to like lay down their life. I don't know what you call it, but there's already several fatalistic characters who were just like, oh, I'll die. Oh, let me jump in that lava. Let me, you know, like just, and so I almost feel like after going to the tree, it was even worse. I feel like Ashton
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
on this like destructive like course of full steam ahead. I'm gonna do everything. I'm gonna jump in this lava. I'm gonna shove this shard in. I'm gonna do all this stuff, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was like he switched. There was no self preservation at all involved. It was full steam ahead for him.
Yeah, and I think part of that is, I think that there is an element of, you know, uh, trigger warning, but was maybe an element of, his character not wanting to live anymore. That is, you know, um, something to it's to safely explore as a topic sometimes, and it can be difficult to see how it plays out. And I don't know if that was part of what he was trying to express with his character, and that could be completely it. Maybe that was what Ashton was feeling and going through, given all the pain he was living through and everything else. Maybe that was a factor. I don't know. Um, but it was, I think, uh, because he was even like going through and like spending the day and having a good time, like as if he may not make it,
Yeah.
like leading up to that whole thing. So I
Yeah.
don't know. It's like again, I'm not piling on Ash or piling on Taliesin. I thought it was done well for the character he was playing. It was just from the character in the story and all the other characters' point of view, it makes complete sense for everybody to be pissed off because it just felt selfish. And
Well, and
I
it
think,
was, even if you take away how it happened and what the end results were, he knew enough to understand that he needed to isolate Fern, have this secret, have somebody
yeah,
in on it with him, and then not, and then they lied the whole time until
yeah.
the process started. So there was some part, there was some part of him that definitely thought he could die.
And I think it's including Fern in that is the hardest thing, right? Like
Yeah.
if you wanted to do that on your own and you went off on your own, that's one thing. But like then to have your friend
Right.
be the one who she apparently like kind of almost was showing that she had feelings for him or something. Like it was
Mhm.
sort of like this
Said she had a
implied
little bit of
thing
a
that was sort of
crush. Yeah.
developing. Yeah, and like so that makes it even worse.
Yeah.
So having said that, they went through a lot of stuff after. Um, Seem to be on the mend at this point, and like they're kind of going through to try to figure out like what are they going to do next. But it did delay what they were planning to do, which was the whole thing that they were trying to do was beef themselves up to go
Yeah.
possibly go to the moon, like to go
Yeah.
do the research
Right.
mission to see what was going on so that they could go to the moon. So that kind of put the kibosh on all that, and they're like delayed now because they've got to rest up and recuperate.
Oh, and Delilah's fully engaged.
Yeah,
Like when we came back to the next episode after that, like Laudna ran away because she was going to kill Ashton. She wanted to murder him. So she left and then spent the night all by herself, curled up in her former home and having conversations with herself all night with Delilah. Like just straight up, Delilah wants the shard badly. The rest of the group understands that there's some stuff going on with her, so they're hiding it and they're not saying who has it and where it's at, and, because they don't want to soup Delilah up anymore. But she's fully cognizant again
yeah,
due to this whole incident. She was already starting to, to emerge a little bit more, but this through, I mean, because you've got to imagine the last time this happened was Bordor. And who killed him? Aside from the punch, it was Lot because she was betrayed.
yep,
She's got massive issues and triggers around like a loved one or a person close to her betraying her. And she just went
yeah,
full psycho.
yeah.
So,
Well, and then they all kind of um, they all sort of had their reactions to that.
yeah.
Each one of them kind of pushing a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah, I
and
feel yeah. Yeah,
Chetney's conversation with him
he's like
saying,
leave.
leave, don't come
Yeah,
back, leave, bye. If this is what you're
yeah,
going to do, go, because everybody, it fractured the whole group. And like what you're saying makes a lot of sense too, because it was almost like it fractured the whole group, but then they came back together pretty quick, except for Laudna. And then once they found her, they were able to kind of put it behind them a little bit, and weirdly enough, decided to go to the Fey realm instead of then putting the shard in and then going to the moon. Like
yeah.
it's
Well,
so
there's two
confusing
things I
right
think.
now.
Talk about metagaming. So here's what I think that it was a smart choice because of the time thing. Like, because if you go to the Fey realm, there's like a timey-wimey
Yeah,
thing where you can come back at center, and I
it's
think that was
soup.
smart. It also gives a little bit more insight into Fern's backstory, we learn more about that, and I think that's
Yeah.
good. But then the other thing is, they didn't have Liam playing, so it
Yeah.
makes sure that they weren't rushing into heading up to the moon without all
Right.
of the cast, right? Without all the players. Now, having said that, they move over to, they go to the Fey realm, and they go to Nana's house, and
Mm-hmm.
which was
Ligament
interesting.
Manor.
Ligament Manor, and so Alora's there with that. I mean, it's a cool sort of progression of events getting there, but then, just to one of the things that I kept saying as I was going through, I was like, ugh, I think there's a bigger reason why she was supposed to have the fire thing. And like, I was like,
Yes.
maybe there's something else going on. Like maybe we don't know her full parentage or something. And sure enough, like and it was just like, a gut reaction. It wasn't like I had some kind of insight or anything. And then, as it was playing out, we get sort of a
Yeah.
little bit of a drop when she talks about Asmodeus, who, when she asked that question, and Amori's like, oh, I thought I smelled a little bit of that on you, and it seems like you have more in common with your mother than with Let On. So they haven't revealed anything, but my
Yeah.
gut feeling is maybe she's some kind of infernal mix type of thing, or maybe it's a Titanic thing. I think it's more along the line of the, infernal
Infernal.
path of,
Oh,
yeah.
well, that guy, I don't remember what his name was, but the guy that was a champion of
Yeah.
Asmodeus, the only person he would even deem to talk to was her. So there's
Yeah.
got to be there's some draw, and we were wondering, even when it was all happening, when he gave her the little kiss on her hand and gave her the little seal to call him, like, okay. I mean, I know she's beautiful. I know she is. She's attractive. She's sexy, but seemingly she's just Fae, right? Like she's just from the Feywild,
Yeah.
and she's a druid.
Well, it's maybe she's, but she's also got that
Maybe she's a fire druid
fiery.
because,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like maybe that's
yeah,
the, the thing. Now it could also be that there's some type of fire connection through a similar thing with the Titanic blood or whatever it might
yeah.
be. I don't know, but I just thought it was really interesting the
I
way
think it's going
that
to be
played out.
infernal, like you said, and then I
I
think that
think it
she's going
is.
to take the shard, and then she'll also have a spark of the primordial, which will make her a badass. So
Yeah, I think so too. It almost feels as if like it's similar to. I mean, it's a standard D&D gaming trope, but it's also something that they did with Campaign 1 when they all kind of went and got their own vestiges of diversity. Like they all had
mm-hmm.
their own things that they needed to get as characters. I feel like
Right.
we're on a similar path where like they're all like awaken the one in Ashton, and then you've got the one that maybe will go to Fern. Maybe the others don't have that exact thing, but maybe there's something else. Who knows if like the act, and this is what I was thinking of too, like if we think about each one of them having something very special tied to stuff,
Yeah.
what will happen to Chetney when he goes to, and he's not like seeing the moon, he's on
Yeah.
the moon.
Yeah.
Like what does that do to the werewolf? Like I don't,
I don't.
nobody's even brought that up like in
Yeah.
the cast. Like it's like if a werewolf turns at a full moon, what happens when you go to the moon?
Well,
Like
I don't know because it's Katha that pulls on the werewolf, but then the Ruidus flare
but
offs or
remember he
whatever, the
had that
red.
thing that had the flare.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. It does make
I
you
don't
wonder
know.
what's
I
going
think
to happen.
it makes you wonder if, like when he's there, does he have some other extra boosted
Yeah.
ability?
Yeah.
Does it get like, is that his way of being empowered in the same way that the other shards empower them? Like,
Well, and the tree, was it the tree? One of them called Imogen pretty much the daughter of Ruidus because
yeah,
she's Ruidus
yeah, it was
born and
like,
she's got such a large
yeah.
spark or seed of Ruidus. So I wonder if she already has her thing.
And when she gets closer to Ruidus, maybe that'll get bigger
Yeah,
too. So
right.
I feel like, and also, in addition, Fern is also Ruidus born.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things going on. Like the one that is the most like normal of all of them,
Mm-hmm.
is
FCG
no, well, no, not
or
FCG, is
Orem.
Orem, and because Orem doesn't have any of those things, but it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that he won't like to have something
Right.
that pops up. Um, I don't know. It's really interesting to see how this plays out. But I'm very curious about like what, like I said, what happens when they all get in close proximity to all the
Well, the
things that
thing
are
with
happening. So
Orem is Orem keeps having visions of his dead husband and his father-in-law and things like that. So he's having a lot of like, like visits, I think, from, and that's the Raven Queen, right? Like, I guess a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so it'll be really interesting to see, like, if it's like what you say, and they each one kind of get something. It'll be really cool to kind of see what pieces they kind of come away with, and who, like,
yeah.
I'm wondering if Imogen even needs anything else, because it has seemed as if she's more powerful than anyone else, but she is scared of what she can do, so she therefore does not do as much as she could, right? Like,
Well,
so
I mean, Laudna's got Delilah.
yes, yep. So
So
she's
there's
just
so
tapping
many
into
things
her.
that they all have that are
Mm-hmm.
like, and
Yeah.
and interestingly enough, and FCG has his super kill mode whenever he turns that
Yeah.
like goes crazy, right? So like all of them have something that is either controlling or influencing them. Again, except for Orem.
Yeah. Well, and FCG, if we remember back several episodes ago, he also has that bomb in his chest.
Yeah, yeah,
He has that whole, all of the stuff on the inside, if handled the wrong way or done something with, can totally turn him into like this massive
but
kamikaze robot
who he was
thing.
also thinking about pulling an Ashton though. Like he was also
I
thinking about doing the
know.
same thing. So
Those
again,
two.
like but these are things that the players, and this is, if anything, all you D&D players out there, this is a good thing to have conversations with other players at your table, talk things through. Whenever things you could just not talk about it and just let things play out in the game. That is definitely a way to play. um, but if you are thinking about strategies and you talk to your other players, all the people at the table, about strategies, at least there's a conversation. So they know about that plan in character. He said
Yeah.
those things in character. So I think it's okay to have those moments where you want to be, putting yourself on the line and be the hero as a character. And I think that's cool. But like, I think it's good to have those conversations, which I think they did in between sessions
Yeah.
after
Well,
action.
yeah,
So
because then
yeah,
they've said so many times, like, no one at this table except for Orem. It's like everybody is just chaos gremlin, It's like we all have reasons to kill everybody
yeah,
else. We all have like switches that flip and we go psycho. So
totally.
yeah, the
Well,
whole group. It's
lots of
like
cool.
the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, lots of great stuff happening. I think it's been pretty eventful. I can't wait for this next few episodes. I'm sure they took a break this past week because they were doing the new Candela Obscura. We're way behind on that. We'll catch up on Candela Obscura
Yeah.
eventually, and talk about it. But yeah, I'm
And we
I'm
had
looking forward to
Thanksgiving.
seeing. Yeah, so yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So let's see how things go as we move forward with this. But it was good to catch up a little bit with everybody and
Yeah.
chat and give our update. We'll do this again, probably in January. So I mean, I'll be on and we'll be doing stuff in between now and then. But we'll probably have our next one for Critical Cafe in January after the new year, so that we give a little bit of time, because there may even be some time off for the holidays depending on how they do
Yeah.
things. So yep.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. I appreciate you joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye.